Responded very positively to everything Oscar was doing, but let's take a moment to look back at something that happened in your corner between the 8th and 9th rounds, Purnell. This was a discussion that you had with your trainer, Lou Duva, and your co-trainer, Ronnie Shields.
I'm telling you right now, we're behind in the fight.
You're
all right, I'm telling you right now.
Okay. You want to
okay?
I'll lose again. No. You're going to win. You're going to knock this guy out.
Win the fucking fight.
You got to punch. That's your punch.
Now, it seems what was going on there, Purnell, is that you were saying, if I'm losing this fight up to now, then I've lost because I can't do any better or anything else when they were telling you you were losing.
Well, Larry, I honestly thought that they were just keeping my spirits up or keeping me mentally in control of the fight and not get lackadaisical and something happens. That's what I thought that discussion. And me being a professional as long as I've been, you know, I can only think that's the only way that, you know, this discussion was taking place.
How were you seeing the fight, Oscar? I mean, during the fight, could you be sure, since it was a very unusual fight for you to be in, of how it was going?
Well, it's really difficult to really see how a fight is going if you're ahead or not, because you're so focused on just sticking to your game plan or trying to stick to your game plan. But I felt I was doing enough to win the fight.
One thing you were doing in an obvious effort to win the fight was you seemed to be conscious of flurrying toward the end of rounds, flurrying toward the end of close rounds, flurrying toward the end of all rounds. And we can see this happening here in the closing seconds of round 4, where you'll step into a southpaw stance and then fire a barrage of punches to end the round. Maybe only 1 or 2 of them landed, but nevertheless, it's an attempt to make an impression. Here in the 9th round, even after you've been knocked down, you flurry again in the closing seconds. And by the 10th round, it appears that Purnell has picked up on the fact that you've been doing this throughout the fight, so when you flurry here, he tries to come back at you in the past few seconds of the round. Was that a strategy going into the fight to try to steal rounds or make an impression on the judges by flurrying in the closing seconds?
Well, when you have a fight that is going to be based on styles and is going to be kind of like a chess match, you want to do everything possible to try to win the round in the last 30, 20 seconds. Even in the middle of the rounds, you want to throw a flurry and show the judges that you want this fight and you want to win this fight. Obviously, this fight was a chess match because of styles. I went into this fight, truthfully, I went into this fight not knowing what I was doing. Whitaker has a very difficult style. And I went in there on just heart alone and conditioning.
Did you notice, Purnell, that he was coming at you more aggressively in the closing seconds of rounds?
Well, I knew that that's what was happening, but I also knew, I knew that that was out of just pure desperation.
But isn't it your job, knowing that officials can be swayed, maybe the round was close, for you to try to do the same thing? And
of
you
course,
didn't.
and as Jim said, you know, I picked up on that, and you know, but obviously I still don't want to get into exchanges where both fighters are throwing punches and you don't know where the punches are coming from. Anything can happen when you get into an exchange like that. I may not never see the punch coming that knocks me out.
You talked, Oscar, about how difficult a style he has. Are your expectations so high that everybody else's expectations are so high that you're finding now that you're judged on a different kind of level, even including myself and the media and everything, expecting this extraordinary performance?
It's not that I'm judged wrongly by people. It's just that, you know, it's a long story of what happened in this fight. I went in the best shape of my life. I was in shape physically, but the game plan was totally wrong. You saw the fight. Whitaker had the perfect game plan. I was moving to his right and falling into his trap, and the game plan was just off.
Larry and I had a mini debate during the fight about the effectiveness of your switching to a southpaw stance. It appeared to me you did that because you wanted to make your left hand, which is your stronger hand, a factor in the fight. And I think on some occasions you scored as the result of it. But you also got knocked down in the 9th round when you were in a southpaw stance. In retrospect, are you glad you did it, or is it something you wouldn't try a second time around?
Well, it's something you have to work on. I mean, if you want to be a complete fighter, you want to do everything possible to show everyone that you can do whatever you want inside that ring. And it all comes with experience. I mean, I still need many more years of learning.
All right, you've said that you could do 50 times better, Oscar, than you did in that fight. Immediately after the fight, in the heat of all of the celebration, you said you wanted to give Pernell a rematch. Since that time, it seems you've hedged your statements a little bit. Where are you now on that?
No, I'll fight Whitaker anywhere, anytime. That's for sure.
But that isn't what your promoter says about the prospect of a rematch.
Well, it's a matter of just agreeing with something, you know, with my promoter and his promoter, and we'll do it. No problem.
Will you go to your promoter, Bob Arum, and say, let's see if we can make that deal, or is your schedule so set for the rest of the year that it's not going to be on the foreseeable schedule?
Well, actually, I mean, I call the shots. I can fight whenever I want. So I'll go to my promoter and we can talk about it and we'll work something out, that's for sure.
Do you expect it to happen, Pernell?
I would sure hope so. I think that it's needed to happen twice, and it's about merits. It's about
But Pernell, a lot of people thought it wasn't a very exciting fight, and even those who thought you won the fight are saying, why would we want to see that again?
Well, then you would have to give me a little more proof on people who say that it wasn't an exciting fight. It was probably one of the most exciting fights of this decade. And secondly, I know the fans probably want to see it again because they don't take to the first time. They don't take to what happened the first time around. I'm still confused about what happened.
Pernell, it now appears that Oscar's schedule calls for a fight against David Kamau in June, Hector Camacho in September, a possible mandatory against a French challenger in January. How long are you willing to wait, and what will you do in the interim?
Oh no! I don't do any waiting around. If it's going to happen, it has to happen, and it has to happen soon.
All right, but will you go out there and, if it doesn't happen soon, try to make a case against the likes of Ike Corte or Felix Trinidad?
No,
because
they does nothing for Pernell Whitaker. That means I would have to start round robining all over again. You've had so much. The best fighter in the world, pound for pound.
You've had such difficulty in maintaining your complete focus, needing a challenge like Oscar to get yourself.
I won't have that.
Can you do that again?
Of course, I won't have that problem anymore. As you see, mentally and physically, the preparation of. I still am 33 years old, but I showed the oldness of the young Pernell Whitaker of old. I showed the Pernell Whitaker out there of 7 or 8 years ago. So I will have that, and I love that Pernell Whitaker.
6 or 7 years ago, virtually everybody regarded you as the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. You just stated moments ago that you still think you are.
I still am. And
Oscar, are you the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world?
No, I never said I was, and I never said I will be until a year or two. I always told everyone that it's going to take more years of experience and more fights. I only have 24 fights. I have 4 years of professional boxing, and it's going to take more time.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming in. We appreciate you being so generous with your time.
Thank you, Jim.
Well, it was billed as the battle for pound supremacy in the sport. In the end, it serves as another advertisement for the difficulty of awarding that mythical crown to any single fighter amid the multitude of styles and politics and career paths that complicate boxing. De La Hoya won, but had very little chance to look good doing it. Whitaker lost, but firmly believes he won, and in some quarters gained even more respect for his Hall of Fame career. Other fighters from all corners of the weight classification spectrum will now apply for the title of best pound for pound. And the world waits to see if there will be a De La Hoya-Whitaker rematch.